I know many Crowdsource the Truth viewers were watching my next guest live on Rightside Broadcasting Network on July 13th, when an assassination attempt occurred against Donald Trump. I've got Vanessa Broussard with us. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. How's everything in New York?
Terrible, but let's not talk about that. I'm primarily interested in your experience there in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, everybody saw you broadcasting live, and I've seen you on Rightside Broadcasting for a long time. You've recently left, and we'll talk about that later, but I'm just most interested in hearing your account of what happened, what it felt like to be there under fire, and what you witnessed.
It was a typical day. I've covered many rallies and events for President Trump in my tenure with Rightside Broadcasting Network, and love going to the rallies, love going to all of his events, meeting all of the great patriots from across the country. People ask me, what's your favorite place that you've been to? And I can't name one because they're all unique in their different, respective ways. And all the people are great. And when you think of one event and tens of thousands of people who come in to see President Trump, and we're out there for hours interviewing the crowds and getting to know the people, it's just a wonderful experience. And that when you're not watching mainstream media and hearing all the negative going on in the world, that here's tens of thousands of people converged in one spot who want what's good. So it's always rewarding at the end of the day to know that there's really more good in this world than evil. We hear more about the evil than we do the good, unfortunately, but there are a lot of great people out there. And it was the same case in Butler, Pennsylvania, small town. And we were staying near the airport. And so it was an hour drive from our hotel to the farm there in Butler. And it was a beautiful drive, beautiful day, very hot because it was summertime, but that's okay. I've covered events in the freezing snow and during the Iowa caucus when it was negative temperatures. And this was just the complete opposite. Very hot out there, but the people come out, no matter the temperatures, they come out, they support President Trump. And we started out like a typical rally, and we're out there with the crowds and interviewing people. And it's just a fun day. You go through Merchandise Row, what we call it, and it's all of these vendors set up with President Trump merchandise and America First merchandise. And people are shopping for themselves and their family members and their friends. And so we spent, a good hour with them. Scott Presler was out there that day. We know he's really hitting hard for Pennsylvania, getting people registered to vote. He had his team out there as well, registering voters. It's very shocking to think that there are people who go to these President Trump rallies who aren't even registered to vote, but that's the reality of it. And so Scott Presler was there registering voters. We talked to him, went closer to the line where people were waiting to get in as the gates opened. And people were cheering and dancing with the music and just excited to see President Trump come out on stage that day. And then, as you know, the events unfolded after that. It went from very energetic and happy and people dancing to the YMCA. And, it's almost like a pep rally of sorts. And so people are just excited. And all of a sudden, it stopped and the mood completely changed.
Yeah, and I mean, it's amazing how you opened our conversation talking about the good in the world. Vanessa, I had seen you for many years on Rightside Broadcasting Network, but prior to this interview, I really didn't know very much about you. I want to encourage people to speaker, and she's a consultant offering life-changing motivational presentations. I've been just so impressed by your story, Vanessa. You've had some serious tragedies in your life. You're a mom. You've got a wonderful, handsome young son. And you really are a role model to people. The fact that you've been able to remain positive through the adversity that you have faced is really inspirational to everyone. And I mean, particularly, you were there at the event. You were basically in danger of being shot. Isn't that correct?
I was right in the line of fire. We were on Media Row. If you've ever been to a President Trump event where it could be anywhere from 30, 50 yards away from President Trump, right directly in front of him. Now, you have to understand that President Trump, when you see him walk on the stage, he walks up, several steps because it's a riser. Well, the media risers are, again, 50 yards or so away from him. And they're also a couple of steps up. So we are eye to eye with President Trump while the people are on the ground below us. And so, so whenever those shots were being fired, all I could do was jump off. Now, to go into that, I have video, Jason, where like I do every rally, where I'm videoing the crowds, they're dancing, they see Rightside, they see Real America's Voice, they see all of the networks there. And when our cameras pan, now President Trump talks about the news outlets that don't pan. Well, we all know that's mainstream. Right. Conservative independent networks, we're there rooting for President Trump and the people of America. So we actually pan the crowds. We have our cell phones out. We're videoing them. So when the people see that, they really start getting energetic and waving. That was all going on prior. Okay. Now I come from a law enforcement family, and I guess law enforcement runs in my blood. I think snipers, counter snipers, have the coolest job. I watch them all the time. Seeing them at events is not uncommon. I see them all the time, especially at outdoor events. They're there a lot, every time actually. And so we always see them, and I always watch them again because I think they have a cool job. So it was about 10, 15 minutes before President Trump came out. And if you're looking at the stage to the immediate left, so I'm looking at the stage, to the immediate left was a building, and there was 2 counter snipers. And I was waiting for President Trump to come out, as was the rest of the crowd. People are on their feet, they're cheering, they have their phones out because they know it's any minute now that President Trump is coming out on stage. I noticed one of the counter snipers point in a direction, which would be if I'm looking at the stage, it would be this way. And he pointed to this direction, and he looked back at the second counter sniper, and they really started getting their binoculars and looking in on something. And I thought, what do they see? What are they looking at? Because I've never seen that before. Like, I've watched them all the time, and I see them scanning, looking through trees and, across fields. They're always just panning. Well, they were really focused on something. At that time, when I thought in my mind, what are they looking at? What do they see? Are they onto something? I took my cell phone and I started recording them. And so that was at 5:56 p.m. At 5:56 p.m., I videoed them with my phone. It's probably 15, 20 seconds. I stopped the video and I watched them again just for a couple of seconds. And I'm like, they're really looking at something. And so I started videoing them again. So now I have 2 videos. That second video is at 5:57 p.m. because your cell phone puts your location and it documents the time. So go back, right. So that's at 5:57 p.m. One of the counter snipers moves his tripod over to the roof was kind of at an angle, a slope. He walked down a little bit and he was looking. So they're really looking at something. That was at 5:57 p.m. Okay. 6:05 p.m. President Trump walks out on that stage. 6:11 p.m. shots were fired. Hours after that, it's coming out in the news where the shots were coming from. It was coming from that direction. So I don't know much about the investigation because a lot of the investigation hasn't gone public. We know we're not getting any answers from the FBI, but we know where the gunman was, and it was in that direction. Now,
Vanessa,
this is my opinion only. I saw something suspicious enough for me to video what looked like they were onto something at 5:56.
Let me stop you a second. Let me stop you 1 second. Let me stop you 1 second. So that direction, you are looking at Trump. Okay, so as we're looking at a television screen and Trump is in the middle, though you're looking at him to your right is where the counter snipers are. What's the direction that the counter snipers were looking?
I'm looking at the podium right now that says Trump. The counter snipers are to the left.
Okay, so you're saying that you feel that shots were or were not coming from the roof of American Glass Research?
I'm not really sure where that's located.
But you said in the video on the broadcast, they're looking at the trees or something like that. And you made a point that they were looking to the trees, which is not the direction of American Glass Research. It's sort of off to the right.
American Glass is off to the right?
The trees are to the right of American Glass Research from where you would have been standing.
Okay. So I know where I was standing. To my left were counter snipers. If I'm looking at the stage, to my left are counter snipers and trees. To my right were a bunch of small buildings in a row. And on the other side of that was media parking and then public parking.
Okay. Well, this is good. We're going to have to look at a map maybe later and sort of figure this all out. Other people are better at figuring out directions than I am, but I'm sorry for interrupting. Please continue.
No, that's okay. And so, in my opinion, I'm thinking, were they onto something? Did they see something? Because it was enough for me to start recording to think, okay, what are they looking at? And if that was the case, that was at 5:56. President Trump came out at 6:05. That was plenty of time for them to say, hold him back.
Right.
Don't come out. We're seeing something, that's where the miscommunication comes in from the local police and the Secret Service, in my opinion.
Right. And so were you able to tell, I know it's very difficult, there's a lot of technical details that I've learned about things that happen when a gun gets fired, as far as the sound of the shot and the sound of the bullet breaking the sound barrier. There's all these different events that occur that can make it kind of confusing for someone who's kind of downrange of the gunfire to where it might be coming from. Did you feel like all the shots came from the same direction, or were there shooters all around you?
Right. We didn't know. We didn't know if there was one gunman, multiple gunmen. We didn't know if we were being attacked. We didn't know. Now, after the second round, okay, so the shots, President Trump, let me back up. President Trump comes out, and of course, we all know the immigration map that he was showing. Jason, I never have my cell phone on me. It's always on me. But I put it down, and I actually sat down on the riser to write down the immigration numbers because I'm a reporter and I wanted to know what the latest immigration numbers were. So right. I'm writing it down, looking at the screen as he's looking at it and talking about the numbers. And I'm writing on my notepad, and then I hear pop, 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 pop. And I look, at the same time he drops down, Secret Service drops over him. And I don't know what this is. I've asked people. One person somewhere in the Butler area immediately after told me it was some sort of defense mechanism. There was this huge spray of water that went across the crowd.
No, that was hydraulic fluids. One of the bullets hit a crane, and the crane
was that what it was?
Yeah, holding up the speakers.
I an answer on that. So
Sorry?
What was it?
It was hydraulic fluid from a crane, because when that fluid shoots out, the crane loses its lift and the speakers start to drop down. So I think all that fluid was hydraulic fluid shooting out of the thing.
It was a massive amount all at once. And then that happened at once. So that fluid flies out. President Trump drops. At the same time he drops down, Secret Service drops on top of him. I knew in that moment this was serious. So I run off the media risers and run around and get down on the ground, but I never took my eyes off. I say President Trump, but I couldn't see President Trump. I could only see the Secret Service laying on top of him, but I never took my eyes out or off of him. And then it happened so fast, but yet it was so slow, if that makes sense. Like
a car accident.
But it felt like President Trump was on the ground for 30 minutes in my mind. Because all I kept was get up, get up, get up. Oh God, no, this can't be happening to him. Right. And so, so to answer your original question from that time, I didn't know if the gunfire was coming to the right, from the left, behind me, in front of me. I didn't know. And so you're in this big field with all these people, and you just hear pop, 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 people drop. And then you hear the second round, and I think, oh my goodness, they've got him. They got him. And so at that time, the second round, in my mind, I still didn't, again, it happened so fast. I didn't know if there was multiple shooters, but I knew the people weren't the target. I knew President Trump was the target. And
were you thinking like Vegas shooting, or what was running through your mind? Like, somebody's going to just kill everybody here?
For a split second. Yeah.
Scary.
It is. Because I didn't know how many gunmen there were. But I think in the second round, my mind took me to what's going on, but they're after Trump. They're after President Trump.
Is your son there with you, or he's somewhere else
No,
safe?
no,
So I think that has a big effect on your psychology. Like if he was there, I think you might have freaked out, right?
yes. And he was the first, obviously, I always look, going back, I always think that they've tried to, or they've indicted him, they've charged him, they've thrown him in jail, they've tried to kill him. And I've always said, if they can't put him in jail and if they can't get him on anything, the next thing they're going to do is try to kill him.
Yeah.
And so that happened, but you say it and you think it, but you never think that it's really going to happen. And
Right.
definitely don't think that you're going to be there live experiencing it. So, I always want to get back home to my child is my ultimate goal all the time. But that's always the case, Jason. If I drive down the road to the grocery store, I don't, want to get in a wreck. I want to get back home to my child. That's the goal. But
he's your miracle baby, right?
Again.
He's your miracle baby. It's a touching story.
Yes, he is my miracle baby. And so, so all that's running through my mind. Interestingly enough, Rightside Broadcasting had on the media riser, we were right at the edge on that day. So the Trump team, the Trump campaign puts down, pieces of paper for the networks. And so when we set up, we know where we stand on the media riser. On that particular day, we were at the very end. So when I jumped off the stage and ran around, our cameras were right here. And I was just ducked down by the stage. Never took my eyes off President Trump. Heard the second round, and so then I think, oh my gosh, they got him. God, please no, this can't be happening. And then right after that, they pulled him up. Now, from the naked eye, I couldn't see if he was dead or alive. I couldn't see. Now, cameras
before the fist pump, you mean?
No, when they actually pulled him up.
Oh,
When they pulled him up, everybody was just holding their breath. We're just like, because we didn't know, were they pulling him up to carry him off? We didn't know. I mean, he's a big man. President Trump's a big man. And so here you have Secret Service pulling him up. And it wasn't until that fist bump that we knew he was okay. And the crowd just erupted in cheers. And we're just, thank God, thank God, thank God. And so I saw he was okay. And I ran back around to the media riser, grabbed my microphone and started reporting. But you talked about my son. Your mind plays tricks on you. It really does. So during that time, I do remember thinking, my mom watches every newscast, and she watches my son when I'm not home. She watches every newscast, and from start to finish. And so I was thinking, I have to get to my mom. I have to get to my mom. She's probably freaking out right now. So Jason, I crawled on my stomach, reached over, grabbed my phone, and slid down like a snake on my stomach. And somewhere in that time called her and said, I'm okay, but I gotta go. I don't remember that at all. Don't remember it. Because there's so much going on. You go into survival mode.
Right.
You're in shock.
Wow. See, that's...
And so then, so after that, the chaos didn't end there. So me and my co-anchor that day, Nikki Stanzione, we went back on stage. We started reporting. Cameramen got set up, and Secret Service and FBI, all the law enforcement officers that were there, allowed the media to stay. You have CNN, you have Fox News, you have your local media, you have Real America's Voice, OAN, you have all of the networks there. Lots of media, newspaper, radio, so many people. Well, so they allowed the media to stay, but they were getting the people out there, and the people were just calm. Everyone was in shock. And so it was probably, if I were to guess, maybe 5 minutes later, they come up to us, that's the law enforcement officers, and they say, we need you to evacuate the premises right now. We have a suspicious package. Go, go, go. We left our cameras. We left everything, because we had to get out of there fast. So here's all of these networks live on air talking about President Trump, the assassination attempt, and we just had to run. And so we ran to our cars. Later, they found out that it was explosive devices, I believe, that were in the gunman's vehicle. One of my brothers called me when I was running to my car, and all I did was say, I'm fine. I'm running to my car, let mom know. And he says, I'm calling her right now. And he hung up the phone. That's when going back to what I said, I don't remember calling my mom. So when he called my mom to let her know I was okay, she said, I just talked to Vanessa. Don't remember it.
Wow.
And so it was a week after that, Jason, I walked around in complete shock, like a zombie. I couldn't believe it. It wouldn't sink in. I just couldn't believe it. Because here you have a man, I've never had a hero. And I am happy to sit here today and say President Trump is my hero. I admire him for everything he stands for, what he's doing, how he's trying to save this country. So not only as a news reporter who has 26 years of news experience, have I covered mass shootings and unfortunately school shootings. And you mentioned Vegas, I covered that shooting. I've covered these things, but never in a million years would I think that I would be dodging bullets in
Under fire. Right.
Right. One. And two, watching the man that I admire the most get brought down. It was terrible.
It was terrible for everyone because, like you're saying, I think it caused us to realize that we're living under a very disturbing kind of thuggery where if it gets to a certain point and they don't like you enough, as you said, they're just going to try to kill you. I am incredibly glad that you were not injured, that Trump was not injured, and I really hope that there is some retribution, as Trump has said, for all of this. You've just told us something very important, Vanessa. I don't know that we have heard before right now that the explosives-laden van was used as a reason for immediate evacuation of the area. And that's an intriguing fact that we're going to have to explore.
Let me clarify, just to make sure, I believe I said this, but I just want to make sure I clarify. The public was already moved out. They were already being moved out after the shooting. So once President Trump got up, and I guess they were given the all clear and they got him off, they were getting the public out of there as well. The media was allowed to stay. We were the only ones allowed to stay. It wasn't until the explosive device or suspicious device was found that they then moved the media out of there. Everyone had to clear the premises.
Yeah, and that's convenient because you guys all had cameras with long lenses. Now, one of the things that you and I had discussed just in our back and forth preparing for this interview, and I've been talking about this since the event, I've seen Rightside Broadcasting at these different rallies and everything, and you guys it's a huge, broadcast company using professional ENG news equipment and everything like that. And I downloaded the broadcast that you did, the brilliant broadcast that you guys did that day, incredibly brave. And, people have been going through trying to look for different details, people in the crowd, etc. And the problem is when you zoom in on these live stream videos, they're very low bandwidth. They use a small amount of data to present the video so that it looks okay when you look at it on your TV, but when you start zooming in, it really starts to break up. And I had asked you if you knew, because obviously on-screen people aren't necessarily familiar with the technical details of how a program is produced. But I asked you if you knew if Rightside Broadcasting was in the practice of recording to the internal memory in these cameras because it's much higher bit rate and much better quality where we probably could see more detail in the crowd. And you shared with me that the practice at Rightside Broadcasting was to only do those high bit rate recordings when Trump was speaking. But you also felt...
Okay, I want to clarify that as well.
Yeah.
That they hit record on their cameras when President Trump comes out. Now they're shooting the same when we're in the crowds, when we're talking to people, interviewing people, the pre-programming with the speakers, and when President Trump comes out. That's the same camera. I believe same settings. I'm not a photographer. I really don't know. They just hit record. So on their SD card, they have a backup. So while we are recording, broadcasting everything live on YouTube and all of the different channels, Rumble, things like that, our app, they actually have a backup and record President Trump when he speaks.
Exactly. And the thing is, when you send video over the internet, it's got to be compressed down to a small file size so it fits over that small bandwidth of the network. But the SD card has much more bandwidth, so not only is it a backup, it's a much higher quality recording. I noticed that the Rightside Broadcasting Network puts out their videos on YouTube at 60 frames per second, 1080p, and 5 megabits per second. The card inside the camera could be as much as 30 times more data. It could be 150 megabits, it could be more. So I know you're not with them anymore, and this is not your end of their business at all, but do you think that if I contacted Rightside Broadcasting, or if they became aware of the importance of this, they might publicly release that larger file, or do they just store them and never release them?
I really can't answer that. I can't answer for them, and I really don't know what happens, where they put it and what they do with it after. I'm sure it's stored somewhere. They have their archives stored somewhere, but I don't know. I don't know where they store that.
No problem. I wouldn't expect you to, but it's an interesting detail.
I'm usually in front of the camera and setting up interviews and things like that. So what happens back at the studio, I don't answer. But yes, I mean, you're more than welcome to contact them and get some of those answers if you can, but I really don't know. As you mentioned, I'm no longer with the company as well. So. But yes, I do have an archive system where they keep all of President Trump's speeches and recordings. And every time he walks on the stage until he walks off the stage, they have that somewhere. Where exactly, I'm not sure.
Right. Well, we'll deal with that later. We'll worry about that later. But people are asking, I don't know if you want to get into this. It can be quite sensitive. Can you discuss why you chose to leave Rightside?
I'm really not at liberty to give details. I prefer not to. I know people are so wonderful. Again, I've met so many great people at these rallies on social media, people who message me, tag me in posts. I thank you all. Keep doing it. Don't stop doing it. I'm not going anywhere. I can't say just yet where I'm going, but I just thought that it was time to move on. I love what I do. It was a dream job. I never in a million years thought that I would be following President Trump all over the country and traveling and meeting all these wonderful people. And it was just some things that were internal that we kind of did not mesh well. And so, as someone who has over 2 decades, I should say, almost 3 decades of news experience, I felt like there's more out there for me. I'm still rooting for President Trump. I encourage everyone else to do so as well. I'm all over social media. Please follow me there. That hasn't changed. Where I'm going next, I cannot say just yet, but Rightside has been a dream job. They've were great to me, provided all of these opportunities, not just for me, but helped me out and promoted me in different ways, doing extra jobs to help me out with my little boy, because I am a single mom. As you know from my website, I lost my husband to cancer. And so, they were just wonderful. But with my career, I felt like there's more out there that I could be doing. And so decided, maybe 3 weeks ago that we should part ways, and I resigned. But have no fear, everyone who's wondering. I love you all. I love President Trump. I love our country, and that's not going to change, and I'll still be out there fighting. So follow me on social media and on my website, and stay in contact, because the best is yet to come.
Absolutely. And people can subscribe to your YouTube channel, Best Day Ever with Vanessa Broussard. This is a pretty new YouTube channel, so if you want to...
And I want to tell you, some of that is my podcast that I was doing that is no longer, since I got busy on the campaign trail, I haven't been able to focus on my podcast, but that pretty much goes along with my motivational speaking. Jason, you brought it up. I'll give people who may not know, I lost my husband to cancer, and then a month and a half later, I was pregnant at the time. A month and a half later, lost my baby stillborn. So I had to bury them both back to back, a month and a half apart. Terrible time in my life. I felt like this was not the end of my love story. The devil never wins. And so thankfully, my husband, when he was diagnosed with cancer, went to a fertility clinic. There's my husband right there on our wedding day. Went to a fertility clinic and basically said, if I don't survive this, you can have a baby. And there's little Marty. So after I lost my first baby stillborn, I said, the devil's not going to win. This is not going to be the end of my love story. And so I contacted the fertility clinic, went through in vitro fertilization, and now I have little Marty, who is 2.5. and he's my pride and joy. He looks like my husband, has the same demeanor as my husband. So my wish came true. My prayers were answered, and I have little Marty,
This
a little piece of my
story,
husband.
it just
Yes.
almost makes me cry when I read it. I don't want people to think I'm trying to pry into your life. I just was reading
No,
your
it's great.
website
I've
and
talked
was
about
so
it on air
touched.
before. I've talked about it with Father Frank Vone, who used to come on Right Side. We've talked about it before when we talk about, the abortion is a big issue right now, and you have people who are, at the DNC having live abortions on stage, and then you have
Ugh.
families like mine who are struggling with fertility issues and wanting to bring life into this world. And so I've been very public about it. I do motivational speaking. And it's okay. You're not prying into my life. It's public. It's out there. So I encourage anyone to go read my story. If you're going through any type of hardships or, sad times, my, best advice to you is don't let the devil win. The devil can attack in many different forms. And in my life, he came in the form of cancer with my husband. He can come in the form of an assassination attempt with President Trump. There's so many different forms that the devil can come in, but you can't let him win. It could be, someone at your job or that's, making your life miserable. Smile, wake up, and have the best day ever. And so you just have to keep pushing forward, keep moving forward. And, we only get one life, so enjoy it.
Vanessa, you're an amazing woman. I mean, the positivity that you've been able to just bring out of all this. And I mean, the love that you have for your son and that you had for your husband while he was with you is just so apparent. I mean, even in seeing the smiling face, there's other pictures of Marty that you've posted on the internet. He's such a handsome young man. It's such an inspirational story that you tell, and you're just a role model for anybody who wants to overcome adversity. And I'm just so thankful that you were able to share some time with us today. Was there anything else you wanted to share about the rally? Anything else that comes to mind?
No, that's basically what I heard and what I saw. I do want to mention this. I do get tagged a lot on social media, and I encourage everyone to keep tagging me, keep posting, keep messaging me, follow. I love what I do, and I love meeting people from all over the country. However, you have to watch what you see on social media. A lot of times, Jason, I'm tagged in videos that are edited, and people will say, there was one tag I was in that said that I needed to retract my statement because it looked like the shots were fired after President Trump was pulled up from the Secret Service. It was an edited video. So I encourage everyone who's watching, when you see things online, know your source, make sure it's factual, make sure it's, there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there, and I don't knock that. I think that's great. Look, I've gotten more answers, Jason, from people like you about what happened on that day than the actual government and law enforcement, right? So
Yeah.
I think the American people are going to find out what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania before we get answers from the actual investigators. So I encourage that, but I also believe that we need to be very careful about what we're sharing and what we're accusing people of, because sometimes some of those videos and pictures you see, look at AI is out there. It's real big right now. People can Photoshop things. People can add things. They can edit things. So before you start sharing and commenting, just make sure that stuff is as legit before you do that. And again, I can't say it enough. I'm so proud of the American people for fighting hard and wanting to get down to the bottom of this like you are. And, spending hours and hours a day trying to sift through videos and pictures and zoom in to see if they can, put all the pieces of the puzzle together, because it's really making a difference.
I agree. I want to leave you with this, Vanessa, and I appreciate you saying that. I agree with you that we're going to find out much more on our own than we will from the FBI or the cops. I don't know if you had an opportunity. I know you're very busy. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see the show I did last night with John Cullen, but I had done a right to know request with the Beaver County District Attorney's Office, and they finally fulfilled it. And the cops don't seem to know how to use their own software too well, because they gave me documents that revealed the names of all the people involved and all kind. I just don't think they wanted to do this. But the last thing I wanted to ask you, and thanks for reminding me, did you notice a drone flying around? We've heard that Thomas Crooks was flying a drone, and I say there's no way at all that he did that.
I have no idea. I didn't see that. When we go live hours before the pre-program begins. We are talking to people and on the ground and interviewing. So I never saw a drone, but that doesn't mean there was or wasn't. I just don't know. I didn't see that.
No, that's fine. I think we've located the type of drone that it was. People have seen video with a unusual looking drone flying around. This fits that description. This is a drone created by a company called Anduril, and this is a CounterUAS, is part of a CounterUAS system that involves artificial intelligence and kind of like a radio mesh network that can detect other drones. And then this thing is a kamikaze. It flies up to 100 miles per hour, and it's there to take out other drones. I also have spoken this morning with the individual who operated this drone. I'm not ready to discuss who that is, but it wasn't Thomas Crooks, and it wasn't Maxwell Yurick. Additionally, if Thomas Crooks, Maxwell Yurick, or any civilian were to operate a multi-rotor drone in Butler, PA, or anywhere, they would most likely be using a commercial drone. I don't know if Thomas Crooks is an explosives expert, a marksman, and building his own drones that don't have GPS and don't use DJI flight controllers. I find that very unlikely. What's more likely is any 20-year-old kid in Pennsylvania who has a drone has some $250 DJI thing where he's going to be logged into a DJI account, and we're going to have a flight path that DJI would have access to, and we haven't seen any of that. I can tell you that this drone operator, he was very pissed off that I called him. Do you know what he said to me, Vanessa?
What's that?
Same thing all these deep state scumbags say. How did you get this number? Don't call me again.
So, again, where did it come out that he was flying a drone on that day?
The FBI or the cops, the fake news.
Yeah. See, that's what's so hard is because you're getting information from all over the place, and I don't know.
Time will tell. We will certainly find out, I think, pretty soon. I really want to thank you, Vanessa, for taking time out of your busy day to join us. And I'm so pleased that you weren't injured and that Donald Trump wasn't seriously injured. I really enjoyed speaking with you today. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
One more thing, if you're watching, make sure your registration cards are up to date. I just had a meeting this past weekend with the Trump team. They're even asking me and making sure my registration card is up to date because I just moved. And it is. But make sure your registration card is up to date. Get 10 people that you know. That's your homework assignment for this week. Get 10 people that you know on a list to make sure that during early voting and election day that they have voted. So make sure your friends and family are voting. Make sure that you're registered, good to go, and let's win this thing. We have to save this country.
We absolutely do. Also, don't forget to visit Vanessa Broussard.com. And this echo in my ear and your beautiful French last name just tripped over my own tongue. But people should follow Vanessa on social media at her website, and we will eagerly look forward to your next correspondent, anchor person position. Thank you so much for joining me, Vanessa. And thanks to everyone for watching. Don't forget you can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by going to odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. If you didn't see last night's broadcast with the unredacted Beaver County District Attorney files, you don't know half the story of what went on in Butler, Pennsylvania. Take a look, and thanks for watching.